When we talk about the climate crisis, it's so easy to get lost in rising temperatures and abstract data points. But this is a human story, and it's unfolding right now in the lives of millions. So in this explainer, we're going to look past the charts and really see the crisis through the eyes of those on the front lines in Bangladesh. Just take a look at this image. It really captures the incredible paradox of life in Bangladesh. For so many, the water is a source of life, but it's also a constant, ever-present threat. This floating health clinic, well, it's a perfect symbol of that reality. It shows the vulnerability of living in a low-lying region, but it also showcases the amazing ingenuity people need just to get by.
And this is the scale we're talking about. At least 10 million people in Bangladesh have already been displaced by climate change. Now, that's not some future projection. That's the reality on the ground today. Think about that. It's like the entire population of a small country, all forced to move within their own borders.
So yeah, this isn't just an environmental issue. At its core, it's a story of profound human injustice. Let's break down exactly why.
This right here, this illustrates a staggering injustice. On one hand, Bangladesh produces a tiny, tiny fraction of global greenhouse gas emissions, just 0.3%. But on the other hand, it ranks as one of the top 10 countries most vulnerable to climate impacts. So in short, they're paying the highest price for a crisis they did almost nothing to create.
And even within the country, this burden isn't shared equally. Not at all. The climate crisis hits the most vulnerable people the hardest. We're talking about the elderly, pregnant women, children, people with disabilities, and low-wage workers who have to be outside. It's a crisis that just magnifies every single inequality that already exists.
For so many in Bangladesh, the climate crisis doesn't arrive as a heat wave. It arrives as a flood. The powerful river systems that literally define the landscape are becoming its greatest threat.
Can you imagine watching your home, your farm, your entire village just slowly being eaten away by the river? This is called riverbank erosion, and it is a primary reason that families are forced to leave everything they've ever known behind. For them, moving isn't a choice, it's the only survival strategy they have left. And this quote right here, it perfectly illustrates the chain reaction. People flee these rural disaster zones, and they often end up in densely packed urban slums, especially in the capital, Dhaka. They basically trade one set of climate risks for another, now facing poor sanitation and few opportunities in the city that's already absorbing up to 400,000 new residents every single year.
So, when these catastrophic floods and cyclones hit, who do you think suffers the most? Who really bears the hidden health costs of a disaster?
Well, the answer is just heartbreaking. Between 2009 and 2014, nearly 70% of all people who got sick after a natural disaster were children under the age of 17. Their schools are damaged, the clean water sources are contaminated, their entire futures are put on hold.
Now, this crisis isn't just a series of personal tragedies. It's also a massive economic challenge for the entire nation. Let's take a look at the numbers.
The numbers are just staggering. Cyclones alone cause about $1 billion in damage every single year. And the future? Well, it looks even more challenging. By 2050, the country could lose a third of its entire agricultural GDP because of climate disasters. A third.
But this impact isn't uniform across the country. This table shows how different regions experience these disasters in different ways. For example, if you look at the coastal divisions like Chittagong and Barishal, you see really high rates of sickness and injury from cyclones. But even the capital, Dhaka, isn't spared, with a huge number of people getting sick after major floods.
So here's the crucial point. Every single dollar that's spent on recovery is a dollar that isn't spent on development. This constant cycle of disaster and rebuilding puts all of Bangladesh's hard-won economic progress at risk. That includes its major goal to graduate from least developed country status, a really key milestone for international trade and development.
But to focus only on the vulnerability would be to miss half the story. The amazing part is that Bangladesh provides a global blueprint for locally led climate adaptation. It is, maybe more than anything, a masterclass in resilience.
I mean, just look at this timeline. Bangladesh has been a true pioneer. As early as 2005, it created a national adaptation plan. It developed the incredibly ambitious Delta Plan 2100, a century-long strategy for water management. They are not waiting for the world to save them. They are actively building their own resilient future.
And this program, this is one of the world's great success stories. Seriously.
It was launched way back in 1972, and it's this incredible system of early warnings, with over 76,000 community volunteers and a network of shelters. It has drastically reduced fatalities from cyclones, from hundreds of thousands in 1970 down to double digits in recent years. It's a powerful testament to the power of preparation.
But even with this incredible resilience, the forecast for the coming decade, it's pretty sobering.
If we continue on our current path, the outlook is bleak. By 2030, over 30 million households in Bangladesh will be directly affected by climate change. And in that same year, climate impacts are projected to push the poverty rate up by 15%, essentially erasing years of hard-won development gains. And if we look even further out, by 2050, the cumulative economic cost is projected to hit $121 billion, unless major global action is taken. The scale of this challenge is just immense. And this brings us right back to where we started, the human story, and a fundamental choice that, really, all of us face.
Bangladesh has shown the world the power of what's called locally led adaptation. And what that means is empowering the communities on the front lines, integrating their knowledge, and giving them the resources to design their own solutions. It's about making sure local people have a real voice in their own survival.
But this leads us to our final and most critical question. Bangladesh is a masterclass in adaptation, no doubt. But can we really expect the world's most vulnerable communities to adapt their way out of a crisis they didn't create? Is local resilience ever going to be enough to withstand a global storm? That's something for all of us to think about.